Welcome back to the Profit School podcast. This, of course, is Profit School by MeasureU. Today, we are talking all about Business Unfiltered, which is a conversation between myself, Chris Mercer, and, of course, my business partner, Jeff Sauer. Today's topic, we're talking about the art of AI when it comes to feedback and giving feedback and getting feedback. So, as is our tradition, Mr. Sauer, what do you think about when you think about the art, using AI, feedback, all that fun stuff? How do you define all those?
Yeah, I mean, at first I was thinking about just feedback in general, like whether it's from a human or from AI. It's being receptive to that you might be wrong and that there might be other information that will make things better. And so whether you're having AI do that or you're doing it with your business partner or you're doing it with one of your team members, whether it's going up the hill or down the hill or side to side, feedback is being receptive to things that potentially could make things better, to tweaks. And I think that a lot of people are not super receptive to that. And so there is an art to it. The art is a combination of being receptive to it, but then also how do you use it in a way that's constructive and that will make you do better? Because I think there's some stuff to unpack there on whether you even are accepting the feedback. And then the next one is AI, which is just like the ultimate efficiency tool. How do you use the best efficiency tool that's ever come out for us as a way to do that? Is it you using it for speed or using it for entrepreneurial loneliness? Like where does that come into it? Is that just, part of your daily routine? But how can we use that as a way to get this response faster? So yeah. How about you? Is that what comes to mind for you? Any other thoughts?
Yeah, I think the fact of calling this kind of the art of using AI is because there is no real science to this. You get a different response every time, right? There's a little bit of squishiness to using AI, and that's why I think there's a little bit of art of how you interact with it, just like there's art in how you interact with humans. And then to your point around that feedback, it's trying to answer that question like, what did I miss? Right. And I think that's where the feedback is for most people. Is like, okay, what are the things that I missed? What are the things I need to know? What are the things that would make this better the next time or make this current thing that I'm about to do even better if I knew now? That's the sort of thing that you're looking for with feedback. And you're absolutely right to be able to use AI for that. And, specifically some stuff that we're teaching now, it's using AI to help AI do that to itself, where AI gives itself feedback and goes through and iterates and does chain of thought reasoning to sort of show you what it's doing as it's learning how to improve itself, before it delivers a final result over to you, that sort of stuff. So I guess when we get into it, like, what are some of the examples that come to mind when you're thinking about this, when you're thinking about how we've been using AI for feedback, whether that's getting it for yourself, giving it to team members, et cetera?
Yeah, I mean, typically when you get feedback, like say you and I, since we've been business partners, I'll have an idea or you'll have an idea and the other person will either like it or not like it, or they'll be like, oh, that's okay. Or they'll, it could be anywhere, right? Any range of emotions or logic filing to that. But ultimately it's just usually one person's opinion versus the other. And if somebody's really excited about it and if somebody isn't excited about it, that can often take the winds out of your sails. It's not always constructive. It's like, yeah, I don't know if that's going to work, which can be good. And best case scenario, that prevents a whole lot of pain from happening or wasted time and effort or inefficiency. Worst case scenario is that you just don't do anything new, because
Yep.
if you say that's not going to work because we haven't done it before, then going back to our last episode on visionary leadership, there's no vision in the company left because everybody's like, you can't do that. So it is especially challenging for me as somebody who likes to figure out the vision and likes to think about the future all the time. That's all I think about. It's like, okay, well then how do I rein it in? And if we're still, if the future doesn't match the present, then usually it's binary when you receive feedback from an individual. It could be neutral, but it's either love it, hate it, neutral. Or could you make this thing a little bit better? Versus when you get response from AI, it's probably going to be more researched. It's probably going to be more measured. It's probably going to give you both sides of the angle, and it's probably going to help you enhance what you're looking for. And so would it be that if you have a really good idea and you know that it's probably not going to get accepted to the rest of your organization, can you use AI to just tell you, hey, that's pretty good, but here's how I'd make it better? And the making it better is, did you consider this angle? Did you, are you appealing to the right person? Are you using your avatars? Are you using personas? And we've made so much headway, as you know, and I'm sure you're going to be able to share on, of like creating who our target market is, who our ideal customer profile is. We know our intellectual capital. We know how we've answered questions on this very podcast. We have all these things. If we can use AI to take our sources plus all the deep research of the internet and combine it into one nuanced opinion, we can get better feedback, I would say, pretty fast. Now, the feedback is going to be limited in some ways because it doesn't have the domain knowledge of your company as much. It doesn't have all your history. It doesn't know everything you know, but it knows a lot, right? So you're trading off maybe specific knowledge that you have with general knowledge that it can contribute. But here's what I'm going to tell you is if you say, I don't trust AI because it's sometimes wrong, you're basically like, who cares? Like, that's not the point. You're not even
so we're humans,
point.
right? Like,
yeah.
so humans are sometimes
humans
wrong.
are wrong too. You're basically saying, I don't want to have an extra opinion for nearly free right in my fingertips right away because I am afraid. Because I'm afraid of being wrong, or I don't have the time to get things done. You know what I mean? So, I think that AI is a great thing for feedback, and the art of it is knowing when to incorporate it and knowing how much better it can be if you do that, if you utilize that feedback mechanism.
Yeah, I think there's a few things that we're starting to use AI for to help with this. One is this concept of digital twins. And you mentioned the personas as one example of that, where we basically made digital twins of our customer avatars, right? We sort of said there's the three main people, and this is specific to that MeasureU brand, and ProfitSchool has its own set of these. But the like for MeasureU as an example, it's there's people who buy it for themselves, right? That's sort of that one me avatar, we call them. And then there's the people who buy it because they're trying to do work for clients, right? And that's the them avatar that we have. And then we've got the us avatar, which is the person who's buying it for their team. Like, they're not the one doing the work, but their team is internally. And there's three different motivations for each one of those avatars. And so we've used AI to build those avatars. We've used AI to train those avatars. We've used AI to build these document references for each avatar. It's hundreds of pages long at this point. That's based on actual sales conversations that we've had. And so they're very robust, right? They're living, breathing things in the AI world. So now we can go to them and say, hey, it's not about what Jeff thinks about this sales page or what Mercer thinks about this sales page. It's what they think about the sales page, because they're the representative of the market. And so we get them to say, what do you think about this? And if you don't, if this isn't the most compelling thing, what is? And how does the other one think about that? And they start arguing with each other, which is fascinating to watch because they're all right from their perspective. And this is what I love about the AI part. It's never going to lie to you. They're like having a 24/7 on-demand focus group of customers who can never lie to you, who will never lie. It doesn't mean they're going to tell you the truth. It just means they're never going to knowingly lie. That's what AI is doing, right? So it's about the questions that we ask them. And okay, come up with a headline that all three of you agree is good enough where all of you would continue to read the copy, and that's the sort of, like, we've made some massive changes by doing that took, like, we had real world numbers. We had a conversion rate of offer to cart for the Academy Insiders program that was like 1%. It was sick. I mean, sick in a very bad, unhealthy way, sick. The original word sick. Like, it was not great. And we tried a bunch of different things to change that. And then we went to AI Studio and we gave it to the avatars. And, I gave them the source code and said, hey, go analyze this page. And they were like, oh, yeah, this seems like a really dated design. Consider something newer. So we did. We looked at other newer designs. And we were like, okay, this one makes a little more sense. And so we changed that top above the fold of the design. We didn't change much other stuff. We did put a video at the top, which was great. And all of a sudden, now we have... And we had a video on there before. It was just a different way of doing the video, a different placement. All of a sudden, we go to 5 to 6%. That's a 500% increase to conversions because of the insight that we got from AI, the feedback that we got from using AI. Now, could we have gotten that from 1,000 customer interviews? Of course. But to do it in seconds with AI, in minutes with AI, versus hours of phone calls and looking at just to arrive at the exact same spot. So AI has helped us collapse that time between the actions that we were taking to improve things and the results from those, right? Which is pretty good. So I think that's one massive way, is to take advantage of digital twins. And there's just a couple other things you could use those for. You could create a digital twin of yourself. I'm a fan of this. You ask AI to come up with a bunch of questions that when answered, it would know it's your tone. So now it knows how to write copy. It knows what your tone is. It knows how you end emails. It knows how you think about stuff. Do another deep research report and say, create a deep research report that's just a bunch of questions that would, when answered, help me create this digital twin of Jeff Sauer so I can understand how Jeff would think about this. So I can create an idea, go to your digital self and run it by you a few times before I bring it to you as the actual human, right? So it's been through a few cycles. There's lots of those because we're all trends and patterns. Like this is just the icky little truth about it. We're all trends and patterns. We can all be AI'd. Everything's just a trend and pattern. That's okay. We're just biological machines. AI is a digital machine. I think that's a fascinating concept that we have in common. I think it's going to make us both more powerful by doing that. So that doesn't freak me out. But that's why I think about the digital twins in this way, because that's another way you can get feedback really quickly. Do the same thing for your team members. Hey, I think I'm going to have a difficult conversation with somebody. How do you think they would handle that? You could create digital twins that can do that. We could ask AI for coaching conversations. We did it recently where there was different psychological profiles and somebody was an emerald and somebody was a ruby. And it was like, okay, cool. Well, how would an emerald manager work with a ruby team member and have to help them understand this thing or cross this? And it was like, oh, here's how you would do that. And the phrasing you would use, and it was like, okay, like it can do anything we want if we're willing to ask it. And specifically around how do I collapse the information? How do I collapse time? How do I get to action faster? How do I take that next action faster? That's the feedback part of it, using it for that feedback to do that.
Yeah, because it's funny. I was just thinking both AI and people are afraid of tough conversations just in their own way. So you mentioned like, hey, if I'm gonna have a tough conversation with somebody, I'd work with AI. Well, the reality is AI is going to be like, it's overly positive. AI is so positive, like they'll actually make up facts in order to not ruffle your feathers, right? They'll take a lot of liberties because they're afraid of having a tough conversation too. Yep. But there's ways you can even work around that. You can, it is exceptionally good at feedback because they want these models to be better. So it's like AI is always better when you give it a feedback. I always say like, you're hallucinating, stop. And then it'll be like, oh yeah, you're right, I'm hallucinating. Go fix this thing. Or like, hey, you're reading the wrong document. Like, let's start over. Or your common thing that you do in trainings is just like, start a new chat. This chat's gone. This chat's gone haywire. Let's start a new chat. And that's, if you're looking for feedback from somebody, start a new chat. You and I have had this too. Like I asked you for feedback at the end of a day, and it was like, let's start a new chat tomorrow.
Yeah.
We do that ourselves.
Humans do that. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
yep.
I'm not getting what I'm looking for right now. So let's control delete this thing till the morning because maybe we'll get a better result. Yeah, exactly. Like humans are the same way. Let's not deny it. And it's good. Yep. But like, I'm not going to be like, hey, Mercer, that was a 7. Can you give me a 10 tomorrow?
Give me a 10 out of 10. So true.
Or like, that was a 10, Mercer. Good job. And like pat you on the back virtually, give you like a digital cookie or something like that. Like, but that's how feedback is, right? So like AI can take that right away and there's no hurt feelings because AI wants to get better. Not every person wants to get better. And this is the art, man. This is the art of this thing is like the person still needs to weight the feedback. And that is the art of this whole thing is deciding where that fits into the picture. Like a science is like, here's the picture is already sort of determined here and it's like a finite thing. Art is like, I'm going to put this on this part of my canvas. I'm going to move it over here. Art is the arrangement. Right. So that's the big thing here is like, how do you arrange the feedback in a way that it's useful for you? Right. Because that's what we want here. We want useful feedback from wherever it is, whether it's AI or a person, and then the art is arranging it. So I would say that having that conversation with a machine, it's less personal. You don't take, it won't take it as personally. It has a lot of resources you can come in. That'll prepare you to then talk with a person to get the final piece of feedback you need. So like, I like the personality piece. Like, hey, I'm telling an emerald that I want to do this thing. I know they're not going to react well. How would I frame that with them? Well, guess what? I've talked to my wife about that for years. She's like, hey, when you got to understand international, like there's knowledge of cultures, there's knowledge of genders, there's knowledge of age and generational stuff. There's knowledge of so many things that you have to take into account. AI is sort of doing that for you. And then it's even better if you tell it the result, like, hey, this is the thing this is who I'm talking to. I'm talking to a Gen X person who, blah, 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 blah. They will help you massage that answer in a way that accommodates to them. Now we do that intuitively. The most successful people, what I'd call an A player, is already doing that intuitively. They're taking feedback from everywhere, whether it's they read a business book, whether they have a mentor that they're working with, whether they're looking at the market and just observing. That's sort of how I do a lot of this stuff. I just observe and I'm like, okay, that makes sense. And I just internalize it. Whatever that is, everything out there is is just taking that feedback. The funny thing is that it takes 10,000 hours plus to get that digital twin, or to be your own digital twin. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you're talking
in
about,
order
like,
for you to get the human experience equivalent. Yeah.
exactly. Yeah. Like I was just thinking, like, nothing that Russell Brunson has done is AO original, but it's so good because he basically is a sponge and he takes all this stuff and then he acts on it. He turns it into who he is now. Like every single person that you look at it who's an influencer had to be influenced.
Yeah.
And that's what they are, right? So like you're just like, hey, oh yeah, that's a little bit of this, a little bit of that. That's a 100-year-old book. That's 150-year-old book. That's Adam Smith's book on microeconomics or whatever. Like those are the things that go into these personalities. The cool thing is that you don't necessarily have to go through all that trial and error in order to get a digital twin that can get you pretty far. And then the summary of all the world's information around that topic ends up augmenting your brain and you still get the result. It's so cool, right? That the result can come from, you can be lazy and get a better result than somebody who was prolific before, but you can't just be zero. That's the important thing to realize here. Like we said this in the last episode, like if you can get your work done in 2 minutes, and somebody else is going to come around and do it in 4 minutes. So you always have to pay attention to that, like the evolving and leveling up. But I love the idea of accepting feedback as fast as possible is a way to level up faster. And the art is, how do you arrange it? How do you arrange that on the canvas?
Yeah, and I can give you another specific technique with AI that I found to be very useful. And we've used this with ping pong prompting, so you can see it in those. By the way, for anybody that wants to learn that stuff, you just go to profitschool.com/AI guide. It'll take you right to the ping pong prompts that we talk about. So that's always out there for you. But the idea is the iteration. You're asking AI to say, provide me the result, right? Like this is how we do ping pong prompting. Is basically the first prompt is, I'm going to try to describe to you what I want, right? Here's what my initial prompt is. Here's what I think I'm trying to do. But then the prompt is really going to AI saying, take what I said, analyze it, figure out what my actual result is. Like, I want to make sure you understand that, we both agree on the result that I'm trying to get. I also want you to analyze for the hidden intention behind the result and make sure you understand it. Now, if I just said do that, it would go, okay, boss, I did it. We're good. But we didn't just do that. We then said, and this is where the art of using AI for feedback and turning its feedback in and of itself. We then say, okay, rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, your understanding. If it's not a 10, list out any questions you have, list out the answers that are the most useful answers for those questions, assume those answers are true, and repeat this process again. If you did not rate yourself a 10, repeat that again. And then it keeps doing that. And when you do that, and this is something that I'm starting to add to almost every prompt ever, is this pattern. Because when you do that, AI, what you didn't realize you weren't doing before is you were asking AI, give me the very first version of this result that you come across that fits the minimum standards of result. And that's what it's giving you, which is why it hallucinates sometimes. But when you say, give me the very first result, then I want you to check and make sure that's the best possible result. And until it's the best possible result, I don't want to know about it, but I want to know what your initial where you started. And I want to know your thinking process as you evolved. And I want to see your final result. And that's kind of what that is. So then it gets its own feedback. It does its own thinking. It starts asking questions that you didn't know you needed to tell it the answer to, but it knew it was a question that it needed to have. And that's where I find the art of that goes, holy cow, it just came up with a question that I should have told it that it did need in order to get this result. But I didn't realize it at the time. And I don't even know the best way to phrase the answer, but it did. I'll look at the answer and go like, yeah, that is the most useful answer. That's exactly that solves it. And if it doesn't, that's where we correct it. Right. And that's another way to give feedback to AI. If it comes up with what it thinks is the most useful answer, but its data set is giving you a different direction than what is the actual most useful answer for that question it came up with, just correct it at that point. You give it the feedback, and then once we've gone through that, it totally understands the result. And it understands the reason behind the result, the purpose for the result. And then the second step of the ping pong is once you've got it to understand the result that you're trying to get, and you both agree, yes, this is where I'm going, which also very popular technique for humans too. If you get everybody agreeing on the same place, we all race toward the same destination. So it defines the result. Second thing is, okay, now give me the prompt that I should have written. Give me the prompt that you would like to receive if you were the one who was going to tell me all this stuff, right? Write this for AI to do the AI's work, because it knows how to do prompting better than anybody, because it's obviously AI. And so that's the second step of it. But guess what we do there? We do the same feedback loop. And we say, write the prompt and then double check the prompt, rate it. If it's not highly likely to achieve the result and achieve the, a better the result and the hidden intention behind the original result, then rework it until it is and show me the same process. And it goes through that same chain of thought. It explains, oh, here's what the initial prompt is. Here's some actually, you know what? I don't like it for this reason. Let me tweak it here. I think it would make it better here. Here's some opportunities to improve it. And that's just because we've asked it in the result to give feedback to itself. And in that feedback, those conversations are where the human learns. Like that's where the human learns, and you go, oh my gosh, I never even thought about that. That's the insight. I can use that for the headline. And all of a sudden you start, instead of going to AI going, write me a sales page, you're automatically getting a sales page, just not in the way you thought you were, because these conversations that you do, because you're allowing AI to give feedback to itself, and because you're willing to give feedback to AI.
Yeah, I like that. So one thing that as you were talking, I was thinking through, ping pong prompting can work really well, but also ping pong prompting plus an agent might be, I think it's the next level for us. And so I'm gonna have to unpack that for a second. But this idea of, I've been working with like a copywriting agent. I mentioned this in the last episode, and just the domain knowledge of having an expert versus an amateur is so much better. Having that back catalog of expertise, it makes me more confident. And so like when we build our own things, using AI to build something, if we don't add our expertise on top of it, then it's sort of like it's amateurish in some ways. I'm not saying that what you've built is amateurish. What you've built is your expertise, right? But
AI is going to be generic.
Exactly. It's generic. It doesn't have that level of success on top of it or experience. It's the same thing as if I were giving you advice. If I give you advice on how to run a marathon, you wouldn't take my advice because I've never run a marathon before. Yeah. If I gave you advice on how to measure or how to run a business or how to do a service business, you should be listening to me because I've got the 10,000 hours that made me an expert in that area. And so like that you should be listening to me for that, but not for other things like how to raise a dog. I've never had a dog before, that type of stuff. Right. So the expertise is really important here. And what it ends up doing then is it's that's who you should be getting feedback from anyway. So I'm just trying to reframe this a little bit as like, you should always get feedback from experts or somebody who's done it before as much as possible. You're not going to hire a coach. Like my joke was always when I was living in Thailand for a while, there's a lot of 22-year-old life coaches. Yeah. And I just thought it was funny because it's like, how much life have you actually lived? Like, how are you going to, you haven't lived life. How would you coach me? Like, you have to have lived a little bit. But I mean, and that's oftentimes the case is that people are giving advice when they shouldn't be. So don't take advice from people who don't have the credibility or don't have the proven methods, but take the advice from the experts. Well, AI is able to give you that expertise either through an agent, which I'm getting hotter and hotter on these ideas of agents as a way of like taking our knowledge and turning it into an agent. Now, an agent is like, the way that I would define an agent. We're going to do the next episode on this actually, but the way that I would define it is, it's like you need a PPC specialist, you need a copywriter, you need a measurement expert, and in that agent, it would have a lot of the back catalog pre-programmed of what measurement means, what the measurement marketing framework is, what dashboards should look like, what questions you should ask for Kia, what information should you seek, what answers should you be looking for, like that type of stuff. You would go through our framework and that would all be programmed in there from our lessons, from what we're doing. And so what we're doing at MeasureU, our MeasureU brand, is we're actually creating an agent that is an expert in everything measurement from our 100+ hours of measurement teaching that we have in the catalog. It's training off of everything. How would we answer that question? How would we do something on this platform? And you can query at MeasureU the agent of an expert. And so now you're getting the result even faster. You're getting the expertise and you're able to tap into us. And that eventually might be what you need instead of courses. I think we both agree that an agent that knows these answers could be more valuable. It is more valuable to certain people than a course. Yeah. Course, you watch 100 hours, then you still have to make the decision. This one is the decisions for you. Yeah. Now, there's elements of, you will never be an expert if you only use the agents. It's like using a calculator without knowing long division. Yeah, you're not, or you're never going to know calculus unless you do calculus, but you can get the result of calculus from a calculator right now.
Right.
And so that's the thing that's really interesting to me is like, that's the evolution, is that you're going to be able to get expert feedback more efficiently and better than ever. It's getting there with these agents. That's to me the main difference between a general purpose AI tool and an agent, is that it's that it's trained on a finite set of things versus infinite. Because infinite will always go with the shortest, fastest answer possible. finite will be like within this realm, here's the answer. And so, got a little bit of a tangent there, but I'm just so excited for that being the next level of feedback, is when you can just talk to an agent and it will be a MeasureU bot. It might be a generic copywriting one, or would it be Frank Kern? Would it be David Ogilvy? Like, those bots are actually going to be even more valuable, right? So that's where I think this evolution is going. And I think that can be my final thought, because basically you should be getting feedback now. You need to take that feedback with somewhat of a grain of salt based on what you're getting and how you train it, but you should be open to it. It's going to help you for your human conversations. But then if you can tap into an expert at pennies on the dollar for what it would cost you for an hour of consulting with them, get into that as fast as you can. Smash that subscribe button, pay all the credits you need to, because that is so worth its weight in making you faster and getting those answers. And it's going to save you all that trouble in the future. But don't forget about what makes us human and what makes us experts. Don't use that as a way of forgetting that you might want to get your own expertise. But if you just need to rent that expertise, that's the way to go.
Yeah, I love that. And I think to your point, like the ping pong prompts, I'm creating all these, I always call them bricks, but it's the same concept of agent, same concept as AI, specific AI tool. It's a carved out thing that's like, okay, now this can do this thing over and over again. And that is the absolute trick, is you take and it's kind of the beauty of it. It's like AI is like painting, AI is all the colors and all the canvases that you possibly could imagine, and all the media that you could constantly use as an artist. What you paint is the tool, right? Is that, okay, this thing does this thing now. Now it's always a picture of a sunset. This will always be a picture of a sunset. It's like, and the equivalent business wise is like, this is a customer persona around the person that buys products for themselves from MeasureU. Like, this is always going to be that. Now, where can I use that? Right. And going back to the artwork, it's like, I can hang it on my wall, or I can sell it, or I can just give it away. And it's like with the customer persona, I can ask the persona to be an expert copywriter, and I can just attach it, how to be an expert copywriter. And it has all of that stuff too. Or I can have it work with the expert copywriter agent, to do that. It's bot, it's version to say, hey, the two of you work together. I have found it an interesting experiment to go through and see how a customer persona writes a sales page when it's an expert copywriter versus when it writes a sales page when it's not. And it just wants to see what it wants to see as a customer, and to see the difference in that. Because sometimes copywriters are too much into how to write copy and not enough into what the customer really wants, and to be able to see that difference. And this is where I think it comes back into the art of AI, because you can start to see slight differences. Like, the light comes through the cracks a little bit, and you're like, there's something behind this. Everyone else is going to use it for everyone else's AI stuff, and everyone else is going to stay the same because of that. How do we sound different? How do we use it to carve out that art still? And it's doing things like that. It's using AI in different ways and using the agents in different ways for different feedback purposes. So you can see like, these two pieces can go together in a uniquely different way. That's what the human component of this is. AI is not going to do that. It might mention stuff, but it's not going to take those actions, but humans absolutely will. So the other thing I'd say, just on a quick final thought, is get ready for the technical ability of these agents. Like Jeff is talking about, these agents right now aren't designing your sales page, but pretty quickly they will be, because that'll just be an API that it goes and says, okay, well, here's the headline. I did the page. I changed the design. Are you cool with it? Because I can publish it. Here's the preview. And it'll just do that. And that's coming quick. Like, that's going to be here very, very quickly. And at that point, again, the capability just keeps getting higher and higher with what humans can do, because now you don't necessarily need the developer anymore, because that's all going to be API'd work. And then part of the reason it's not happening yet is because the APIs just haven't been updated, but they are quickly being updated. Everybody's working on this. So when those things come out, we get really good at doing agents. Then agents all of a sudden have agency, where they can do some stuff through the APIs and connect from that. It is just a whole new level of game over, game on, and playing at the new level. So with that, we'll go ahead and bring this one to a close. Thanks again for listening to the Profit School podcast. This has been a business unfiltered conversation by myself, Chris Mercer, and of course, Jeff Sauer. If you are interested in learning how to be an AI first business and have more conversations around this, maybe learn some more strategies and tactics, heavily encourage you to join ProfitSchool.com. There is a community back that you can join for absolutely free currently. So just go to ProfitSchool.com. You can join that. We have content back there. And of course, if you're looking for measurement stuff, we've got MeasureU.com. Same thing. A nice little community back there for you as well. So with that, we'll go ahead and bring this one to a close. Please talk to others about what you have learned today on this podcast. Share it where you can. And with that, we will see you on the next episode.